Chinese name for this is 瘦肉皮蛋粥. 皮蛋瘦肉粥. Hello, I'm Lisa Chang Smith. Welcome to Cooking with Steam. Today we're making congee 3 ways. So I'm very excited to show you how to make congee because A, it's super simple, B, it's infinitely variable, and C, it's one of the things that I have eaten the most in my life. So we're gonna do 3 kinds of very simple sweet potato and rice congee. Fish congee, that's inspired by my time in Tainan where milkfish congee is very common. And also we're gonna do a more Cantonese style one, pork and century egg congee that reminds me actually a lot of dim sum halls and things like that growing up, but is also very popular in Taiwan. Last season, we talked all about this, the Tatung Electric Steamer, the workhorse in a Taiwanese kitchen. So we're going to be using it to make congee today. Sweet potato congee, or di gua zhou. It's made from 2 ingredients, sweet potatoes and rice. Sweet potato is a really interesting ingredient in Taiwan. It's known for being able to flourish and grow anywhere, and has also come to kind of represent a certain Taiwanese spirit. First, I will peel the sweet potato. I'm just going to cut these in half, like this. And then I'm going to chop them crosswise. This is Penglai mi, or Penglai rice from Taiwan. The short story is that the Japanese colonists missed their short grain sushi rice that they had in Japan, and over decades figured out how to grow it in Taiwan. And there's actually a special variety and strain that grows in Taiwan. So the general ratio for congee is 1 part rice to 6 parts water. I'm going to just fill up half of a rice cup. I'm just going to strain it and then we'll be ready to go. So that's it for washing the rice. So again, the ratio is 1 to 6. So I put roughly half a cup in, so I'm going to put 3 cups of water. All I need to do is add the sweet potato, so I'm just going to pour all of this right into the pot. And then I'm going to add 1 cup of water. That's going to cook for, around 30 minutes or so. And if you're working on the stove, what you want to do is bring this to a simmer and let it simmer for 30 minutes covered. For garnish, I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to do scallion, and this is called Amber River Soy Sauce, made from black soybeans. Taiwanese soy sauce is often made of black soybeans versus yellow soybeans and doesn't actually have any wheat in them. And then we also have Taiwanese salt, so this is called frost salt. I have one more thing, which is a chili crisp in a Sichuan style. We'll add a little bit of texture and spice to the congee. So scallion's super simple. I'm actually not going to put the whites and the pale green parts in. So this has been going about 20-25 minutes. Lift the lid. So much steam. And everything has kind of expanded. All the water has been absorbed. Just going to take a big spoonful of this silken congee. So this is that Amber River soy sauce. I'm going to pour it in a spoon first, just so that I can control the amount. Then I'm going to put as much chili crisp as I want, which for me is a lot. And I will add some crunchy salt. We didn't salt it at all, so it's okay to go generous with this. And just a tiny bit of scallion. And then mix it up a little bit. I can smell the citrus smell of the brown peppercorn from the chili crisp. As usual, it's very hot. It almost has like a risotto-like texture. And the sweetness of the sweet potato is very apparent and is offset by the kind of bitterness of the chili crisp. You saw how we started. Tiny bit of rice and 2 sweet potatoes. That's sweet potato congee. Fish congee is very similar to sweet potato congee in that it's just a 2-ingredient, or in this case, 3-ingredient congee. Rice, fish, and then I'm actually going to use dashi stock instead of water. We're going to make the congee first. We're going to use the congee to poach the fish, so it's a very quick cook. Same thing, 1 part rice to 6 part stock. Every last grain. So you can do fish stock, you can do instant dashi, you could make dashi with kombu, and you can also use water. If you look in here, you'll see that the inner pot is actually marked with numbers. The number 3 is the same as 3 plastic cups. So since I'm working with a hot liquid, I'm actually just gonna ladle it in until we hit that level. Or actually, I'm gonna pour it in because that's gonna take forever. So same as before, I'm gonna add a cup of water to the outside, which is gonna cook for 20 to 25 minutes. Just like this. This will cook faster because the dashi was already hot. This is a sea bass fillet, and it's frozen just a little bit. So not too much where it becomes too firm, but just enough where we can really get a thin slice. The thin slice is important because we want the fish to poach in hot congee. So I'm just gonna hold the fish here and just cut it kind of like that. So you get this like almost like a flake. It increases the surface area, but it's not thick and chunky. Another way you can do this is actually go like that. That might be easier. So you're cutting the skin at the end. A tip, when you're cutting something delicate like this, it can weave around. You can put like a cloth underneath, and that will keep it from moving around so that A, it's safer, and B, you can just do a little bit of a better job. Okay, so that is the fish. I'm just gonna put it right back into the dish that it was in. The switch has flipped up. This is very hot. So now is the right time to add the raw fish into the porridge. So I'm gonna drop all those in and just give it a good stir to make sure things aren't sticking together. The garnish for this is Chinese celery. It has a thinner stem and a more concentrated flavor than traditional celery. And then also we're gonna do a little bit of slivered ginger. This is something that we offer, well, we call it frizzled ginger. It's kind of like a ginger confit. So basically it's ginger slices that have been slow simmered in black sesame oil. And then finally, I'll use another kind of Taiwanese salt. This is Fleur de Sel, a kind of salt that crystallizes in the summer and has that crunchy texture to it. So for the garnish, you just need a little. I'm just gonna take 1 or 2 stalks of this Chinese celery. We're just gonna chop it up really finely. The flavor is pretty intense, so it will add kind of bitter, bright flavor. All right, so that's the celery. So for the ginger, what I do is I just use a metal spoon, which makes it a lot easier than like a peeler or a knife, and just like scrape the skin away like this. Makes a little bit of a mess. So like so. I think trying to get them as thin as possible for a garnish is really important because there's a big difference between a tiny piece of ginger and a big chunk of ginger when you're eating. Just stack them all up like this, and then I'm just going to cut them as finely as I can. Here we have our pile of some thin ginger garnish. That's it. So I'm just gonna check on the fish and see if it's cooked. Yes, amazing. It's like magic. Same deal. Just put a couple spoonfuls in. So the frizzled ginger is very rich because of the black sesame oil. So I'm just gonna put a little. I just wanna get some of these like crunchy bits and then drizzle some of the oil around the edges. Do the celery. I'll just put it all around. And then I'll take a little bit of ginger, just put it right in the middle. So this is that Fleur de Sel. And that's your beautiful bowl of fish congee. See how it is. It's so good. The fish is shockingly tender because it was cooked so quickly. This one has that seafood fresh fragrance, and the sesame oil is very rich. The celery is crunchy and really intense. I think this is, just a perfect bowl of fish congee. We're gonna make pork and preserved egg congee this time. We're going to use pork shoulder, which I'm going to mince and then marinate. And we're also going to use century egg. These are preserved duck eggs soaked in like a basic solution that makes them kind of transform into this umami and jelly-like texture. So we'll make the porridge or the congee first, and then we're gonna poach these ingredients in the porridge very quickly. And then one on the outside. There we go. The basic concept for marinating the pork is something called velveting. So when you chop up or slice pork or meat or fish and you marinate it in a little bit of cornstarch and water and sometimes a little bit of oil, the open grains of the meat that you've cut will start to absorb some of that water and oil, and that's gonna make it just be super tender. So I'm just gonna use this pork shoulder and I'm gonna make it into like a fine mince. So I will first cut it against the grain. I always like to do this over ground pork. I really like kind of hand mincing. So now that I have the pork in slivers, I'm just gonna chop this direction to get it into like a little bit of a mince. You can just kind of spread it out like this, and then so the texture is not quite uniform. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're just putting enough liquid in for the meat to absorb. This is a cold pressed white sesame oil. So roughly a teaspoon. Also some salt, which is going to be absorbed and give really nice flavor to the pork. And a dash of white pepper, or more than a dash because I love it. A little bit of rice wine. Don't pour too much in. Some cornstarch in, a teaspoon or a little bit more. A little bit of moisture, and it's going to be what the cornstarch absorbs to keep the pork tender. Mix it up together. So you're going to see at first that it's pretty watery. And then as it sits, the water is really going to be absorbed. It's actually already starting to absorb. And we're just going to put that right into the congee when it's ready. So I'll put that here, wash my hands again, and then I'll show you the century egg. The century egg is actually traditionally buried in like a mixture of lime and ash and rice hulls and all these things that create an alkaline environment. The flavor of this is, people have said like sulfurous, but I think it's like a little bit mineral. We just peel these like a hard-boiled egg. There it is. So the yolk is soft, and then the white has turned into almost like a jello. I'm going to try to cut them into smaller pieces because I actually want to match the pork mince so that it's just more evenly distributed throughout the congee. So this is our amazing mass of century egg. Congee's done. It's still piping hot. I'm going to introduce the pork and the century egg at the same time, give it a stir, let it cook in there. Okay, so in this case, I'm actually going to add a little bit of water because it is raw pork. I want to make sure we bring the temperature up to steam again. While we wait for this to get to temperature and cook, I'm going to talk you through the garnishes I'm using today. So first, I'm going to do cilantro. I think the bright flavor is really great with the century egg and kind of offsets that mineral aspect. Also, fried shallots. So fried shallots are great, amazing allium flavor, but they're also very crunchy. They smell really good right now. And I'm gonna maybe put a little bit more white pepper in. I love it with pork. It also has like a sort of funkiness that I enjoy with the century egg. And then I'll put a little bit of salt to taste, and that's it. So the pork has cooked and the century egg yolk has actually kind of flavored the stock. So I'll do a little bit of white pepper first. And I will add some crunchy salt and some shallots. And then a good chunk of cilantro. And it's very hot. I keep doing that to myself. This is incredible. The flavors are perfectly balanced. The shallot is very crunchy, which combines with the bouncy texture of the pork and the kind of jelly texture of the egg white. And then the soapiness of the cilantro just brightens everything up. It's just absolutely silken. And the Chinese name for this is 瘦肉皮蛋粥. 皮蛋瘦肉粥. So that concludes congee 3 ways. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe.